The stars had been quiet for 3,000 years. The Galactic Council controlled everything from the inner rim to the outer darkness. They had seen species rise and fall. They had watched civilizations burn themselves to ash. Nothing surprised them anymore. Until today. Ambassador stood in the center of the great observation deck. His 4 eyes blinked slowly as he studied the readings on the massive display screen. The numbers made no sense. They had to be wrong. "Run the scan again," he ordered. The technician, a small creature with skin and nervous hands, pressed several buttons. The machine hummed. The results came back the same. "Ambassador, the readings are accurate. There is a vessel entering Sector 7. It is very large." Felt something cold move through his body. He had served the Council for 200 years. He had seen warships from a dozen species. He had witnessed the great battle cruisers of the Empire. He had watched the living ships of the swim through space like metal whales. But this was different. "How large?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. 3 kilometers, Ambassador, maybe more." The observation deck went silent. Every creature present stopped what they were doing. 3 kilometers. No species built ships that size. The largest vessel in the Council fleet was barely 1 kilometer long. Building anything bigger was considered impossible. The power requirements alone would drain a small planet. "Where did it come from?" asked. The technician checked the trajectory data. His hands were shaking now. "From beyond the dark zone, Ambassador. From the uncharted systems." The dark zone. The Council had ignored that region of space for centuries. The stars there were young and wild. The planets were unstable. No intelligent life could possibly develop in such a harsh environment. Or so they had believed. Turned to his communications officer. "Send word to the scout fleet. I want eyes on that vessel within the hour." The message went out at faster-than-light speed. Across the sector, 12 scout ships changed course. They were small and fast, designed for reconnaissance. Their commanders were experienced soldiers who had served the Council faithfully. None of them were prepared for what they would find. Commander L was the first to see it. His scout ship dropped out of hyperspace at a safe distance of 10,000 kilometers. His pilot, a young female named, immediately began recording everything. "Great ancestors," L whispered. The vessel hung in space like a sleeping giant. It was black, darker than the void around it. Its surface was covered in strange patterns that might have been weapons or sensors or something else entirely. Lights flickered along its hull in sequences that seemed almost alive. But it was the size that made L's heart stop beating. 3 kilometers did not do it justice. The thing was a mountain of metal floating in the emptiness. It made his scout ship look like an insect next to a great beast. He could see structures on its surface that were bigger than most space stations. "Commander," said, her voice barely a whisper, "I am detecting weapons, many weapons." "How many?" She checked her instruments twice before answering. "I count over 400 primary cannon positions. There are thousands of smaller weapon points, and there is something else, something in the center of the ship. My sensors cannot identify it, but the energy readings are. Commander, the energy readings are higher than our home star." L wanted to run. Every instinct in his body screamed at him to turn around and flee into hyperspace. But he was a soldier of the Council. He had his duty. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "All frequencies." The channel opened. For a long moment there was only silence. Then a voice came through. It was strange and alien, but the universal translator worked quickly. "Unknown vessels. This is Admiral Hannah Park of the United Nations Spaceship Resolute. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The voice was calm. There was no fear in it, no threat. It was the voice of someone who had no reason to be afraid of anything. L swallowed hard. "This is Commander L of the Galactic Council Scout Fleet. We detected your vessel entering Council space. We are here to investigate." There was a pause, then the voice spoke again. "Council space, I see. We were not aware this region was claimed. We are explorers from the planet Earth. We come in peace." Peace. The word seemed strange coming from a ship that carried enough weapons to destroy a small fleet. "Admiral Park," Elle said carefully, "your vessel is very impressive. May I ask why a peaceful exploration ship carries so many weapons?" Another pause. When the Admiral spoke again, there was something in her voice, something that might have been sadness. "Commander, my people learned a hard lesson long ago. The universe is not always kind to those who cannot defend themselves. We hope for peace, but we prepare for war." Inside the Resolute, Admiral Hannah Park stood on the bridge and watched the small alien ships on her display screen. They looked like toys compared to her vessel. She felt almost sorry for them. She was a small woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She had served in the United Nations Space Force for 30 years. She had watched Earth nearly destroy itself in the Great War. She had been there when humanity finally united and looked to the stars. And she had been there when they built the first Titan-class warship. "Admiral," her communications officer said. He was a young man named with quick hands and a sharp mind. "The alien scouts are transmitting to someone. I am picking up multiple signals going to different locations." Hannah nodded. "They are reporting to their superiors. That is expected." "Should we be concerned?" "No." Hannah looked at the stars outside her window. They were so different from the stars she had known as a child. "Let them report. Let them tell their leaders what they have seen. It is better this way." Looked uncertain. "Better how, Admiral?" Hannah turned to face him. Her eyes were hard but not cruel. "When we find a new species, we have two choices. We can hide what we are and let them think we are weak, or we can show them our strength and hope they choose peace. The first choice leads to misunderstanding. The second choice leads to respect. And if they choose war instead of peace?" Hannah was quiet for a moment. Behind her, the great ship hummed with power. In its heart, reactors burned with the fire of captured stars. Along its sides, weapons waited in silence, ready to wake at her command. "Then they will learn why humanity built the Titan class," she said, "and they will learn quickly." Back on the Council observation deck, read the reports from the scout fleet. His hands trembled as he turned each page. The images were clear. The data was accurate, and it was terrifying. "This is impossible," he said. "No species develops this kind of technology so quickly. Our records show nothing from that region of space. How can a civilization we have never heard of build something like this?" Elder stepped forward. He was old even by Council standards. His scales had faded too, and his movements were slow, but his mind was still sharp. "You assume they are new," said. "Perhaps they are not. Perhaps they have been watching us for a very long time. Perhaps they were waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves." Felt cold again. Waiting for what? Looked at the image of the massive ship on the screen. His old eyes studied every detail. "That is the question, Ambassador. That is the question we must answer before it is too late." In Sector 7, the Resolute continued its slow journey into Council space. And on its bridge, Admiral Hannah Park waited for the galaxy to decide if humanity would be welcomed or feared. She hoped for the first, but she was ready for the second. She was always ready. The Council chamber was the largest room in the galaxy. It had been built 3,000 years ago when the first species came together to form a government of peace. The walls were made of crystal that had been grown over centuries. The ceiling showed the stars in real time, a constant reminder of what they were trying to protect. Today, the chamber was full. Representatives from 47 species sat in their assigned places. They whispered to each other in dozens of languages. The universal translators worked hard to keep up with all the conversations. At the center of the chamber, Elder stood before the great display. Behind him, the image of the human warship filled the screen. Everyone had seen the reports. Everyone had read the data. But seeing the actual image made it real in a way that numbers could not. "My fellow council members," began, his old voice carrying across the chamber, "we face a situation that none of us expected. A new species has entered our space. They call themselves humans. They come from a planet called Earth, located in the region we call the Dark Zone." A murmur went through the crowd. The Dark Zone. Everyone knew that region was supposed to be empty. "They claim to come in peace," continued. "But as you can see, they have brought a vessel of war. Our scouts report that this ship, which they call the Resolute, carries enough weapons to challenge our entire defense fleet." The murmurs grew louder. A representative from the Confederation stood up. He was a tall creature with blue skin and 3 arms. "This is an act of aggression," he declared. "They bring a warship into our territory without permission. We should respond with force." Another representative stood. She was from a peaceful species known for their wisdom. "We know nothing about these humans," she said. "Perhaps their ship is large because they come from a dangerous region. Perhaps they need such weapons to survive. We should not assume the worst." The chamber erupted into argument. Some demanded war. Others called for peace. A few suggested simply ignoring the humans and hoping they would go away. Raised his hand for silence. It took several minutes for the noise to die down. "We will do nothing hasty," he said firmly. "I have sent a message to the human vessel requesting a formal meeting. Until we know more about their intentions, we will watch and wait." On the bridge of the Resolute, Admiral Hannah Park read the council's message. It was polite but cold. They wanted to talk, but they did not trust her. That was fine. She did not trust them either. She called to her communications officer. "Send a reply. Tell them we accept their invitation to meet. We will come to their space station in 3 days." Nodded and began typing the message. At the same time, the door to the bridge opened, and a young woman walked in. She was tall and thin, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her name was, and she was the best sensor operator in the fleet. "Admiral," said, her voice tight, "I need to show you something." Hannah followed her to the sensor station. The display showed dozens of small dots moving through space. They were converging on a single point. "What am I looking at?" Hannah asked. "Ships, Admiral. Lots of them. They are coming from multiple directions, and they are all heading toward our position." Hannah studied the display. The ships were not council vessels. Their energy signatures were different, more chaotic. "Who are they?" Pulled up additional data. "Based on the ship designs and communication signals, I believe they belong to something called the Dominion. According to the Council's public records, they are raiders and pirates. They attack civilian ships and steal cargo." "Pirates?" Hannah felt a small smile forming on her face. "How many ships?" 37, Admiral. They will reach our position in approximately 4 hours." Hannah looked at the display for a long moment. 37 ships. It was a large force by most standards. The pirates probably thought they were about to capture the prize of a lifetime. They had no idea what they were flying toward. "Do nothing," Hannah ordered. "Let them come, but wake the crew and prepare all weapon systems. If they want to fight, we will give them one they will never forget." The news of the approaching pirate fleet reached the council within the hour. Watched the situation unfold from his observation deck. Part of him hoped the pirates would destroy the human ship. It would solve many problems. But another part of him, a deeper part, wanted to see what the humans would do. "They are fools," said, standing beside him. "They see a large ship and think of profit. They do not understand what they are attacking." Nodded slowly. "You believe the humans will win." "I believe we are about to learn something important about our new neighbors." On the Resolute, the hours passed slowly. The crew moved to their battle stations with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. They were ready. In the medical bay, Dr. Min checked her supplies for the 100th time. She was a small woman with gentle hands and a kind face. She had joined the Space Force to help people, not to fight, but she understood why the weapons were necessary. "Are you scared?" asked her assistant, a young man named. Min thought about the question. "No," she said finally, "I am sad. Those pirates out there, they think they are coming to rob us. They think this will be easy. They do not know that many of them will die today." Was quiet for a moment. "Is there any other way?" "We sent them warnings. We told them who we are and what this ship can do. They did not listen." Min closed her medical kit and looked at her young assistant. "Sometimes peace is not a choice. Sometimes it is something you have to fight for." On the bridge, Hana watched the pirate fleet approach. They were not even trying to hide. They came in a wide formation, spreading out to surround the Resolute. It was a standard attack pattern, designed to overwhelm a target from all sides. Against a normal ship, it might have worked. Admiral said, "The lead pirate ship is hailing us." "Put it on screen." The display flickered and a face appeared. It was rough and covered in thick scales. The creature had small eyes full of greed and cruelty. "Human vessel," the pirate said, his voice harsh and mocking. "I am warlord of the Dominion. Your ship is impressive, but you are alone in strange space. Surrender now, and I will let your crew live as slaves. Resist, and I will tear your ship apart piece by piece." Hana looked at the warlord's face. She had seen creatures like him before, bullies who used fear and violence to take what they wanted. They were the same everywhere in the universe. "Warlord," she said calmly, "I am Admiral Hana Park. I will give you one chance to turn your ships around and leave. If you do not, I will destroy you." The warlord laughed. It was an ugly sound full of contempt. "Destroy me, with one ship against 37. You humans are either very brave or very stupid." "We are neither," Hana replied. "We are simply prepared." She ended the transmission and turned to her weapons officer. He was a serious man named Sung with steady hands and cold eyes. "Sung," Hana said, "fire warning shots full spread, show them what they are facing." Sung nodded and pressed a sequence of buttons. Along the hull of the Resolute, dozens of weapon ports opened. Energy gathered in the darkness, glowing brighter and brighter. Then, in perfect unison, the guns fired. The night lit up with streams of blue light. The shots were not aimed at the pirate ships. They passed between them, close enough to shake their hulls but not close enough to cause damage. It was a message, a very clear message. On the pirate flagship, Warlord watched his display in horror. His sensors were going crazy. The energy readings from those shots were off the scale. Each one had carried enough power to destroy his flagship 3 times over. And the human ship had fired dozens of them, casually, without even aiming. Warlord, his second-in-command, said, his voice shaking, "What do we do?" Stared at the massive human vessel. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had not felt in years. "Fear." "All ships," he ordered, his voice hollow. "Attack formation, concentrate fire on their engines." It was the wrong decision. He knew it even as he gave the order. But he was a warlord of the Dominion. He did not retreat. He did not surrender. He would rather die than show weakness. On the Council observation deck, held his breath as the pirate fleet began its attack. Beside him, watched with ancient eyes that had seen 1,000 battles. "The pirates are committing," said. "They are actually going to attack." "Yes," replied quietly, "and now we will see what humans are truly capable of." The first pirate shots reached the Resolute. They splashed against its shields like rain against a mountain. Inside the great ship, no one even felt the impact. Admiral Hana Park watched the attack on her display. She waited until every pirate ship was committed, until there was no chance of retreat. Then she gave the order. All batteries, she said, her voice steady and cold. Fire at will. The Resolute came alive with fire and light. And in that moment, the galaxy learned a terrible truth about the species called humanity. They were very, very good at war. The battle lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The Council would later study every moment of those 4 minutes. They would analyze every shot, every movement, every tactical decision, and they would never be able to fully understand what they witnessed. The Resolute did not move. It sat in space like a patient hunter while the pirate fleet swarmed around it. The pirates fired everything they had: missiles, energy beams, kinetic rounds. The space around the human ship filled with explosions and light. None of it mattered. The shields of the Resolute absorbed every attack without wavering. Inside the ship, the crew felt nothing. No shaking, no vibration, no sign that they were under attack at all. They simply went about their work, following the orders they had trained for their entire lives. "Shield status," Admiral Hanna asked calmly. Lieutenant checked her display. 98%, Admiral. Their weapons cannot penetrate our outer barrier. Good. Hanna watched the pirate ships on her screen. They were starting to panic now, firing wildly, trying desperately to find a weak point. Sung, target the flagship first. Use the main cannon. 1 shot only. Sung nodded and entered the targeting data. Deep inside the Resolute, something ancient and terrible began to wake up. Energy flowed through channels built to handle the power of a small sun. The main cannon, located at the front of the ship, began to glow with a light that hurt to look at. "Main cannon charged," Sung reported. "Ready to fire on your command." Hanna looked at the pirate flagship on her screen. Warlord was still inside, still giving orders, still believing he could win. "Fire." The main cannon spoke. There was no sound in space, but everyone who watched felt like there should have been. A beam of pure white energy shot from the Resolute like the finger of an angry god. It crossed the distance to the pirate flagship in less than a second. The flagship did not explode. It did not burn. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a ship of metal and weapons and crew. The next moment there was nothing, not even debris. The energy of the main cannon had been so intense that it had converted matter directly into light. Warlord died without even knowing he was in danger. On the Council observation deck, made a small choking sound, said nothing. He simply watched with his old eyes, recording every detail in his ancient memory. 1 shot, whispered. 1 shot destroyed an entire warship. Yes, replied. And look at the human vessel, it is not even moving. The remaining pirate ships had stopped firing. Their captains stared at the space where their flagship had been. Fear spread through their ranks like a disease. Some tried to run. Others simply sat in place, unable to move, unable to think. On the Resolute, Sung looked at his admiral. Orders. Hanna studied the pirate fleet. They were broken now. Whatever threat they had posed was gone. She could destroy them all with a single command. Every pirate would die and the galaxy would be safer for it. But that was not the human way, not anymore. Open a channel to all pirate ships, she ordered. Made the connection. Channel open, Admiral. Attention, Dominion forces. Your warlord is dead. Your attack has failed. You have 2 choices. Surrender now and face justice for your crimes, or continue fighting and share your warlord's fate. She paused, letting her words sink in. You have 30 seconds to decide. The seconds passed slowly. On the bridge, the crew waited in silence. No one moved. No one spoke. They all knew what would happen if the pirates chose to fight. At 23 seconds, the first pirate ship powered down its weapons. Then another. Then 5 more. Within a minute, every surviving pirate vessel had surrendered. They floated in space with their shields down and their weapons cold, waiting for the humans to decide their fate. Hanna felt something release in her chest, a tension she had not realized she was holding. Contact the Council. Tell them we have prisoners who need to be collected. Tell them also that we would like to continue our journey to the meeting point." Nodded and began transmitting the message. In the council chamber, the representatives sat in stunned silence. They had watched the entire battle on the great display. They had seen the pirates attack with everything they had. They had seen the human ship absorb it all without effort. And they had seen that single shot. The representative who had called for war earlier was the first to speak. His voice was quiet now, all the anger gone. "We cannot fight them," he said simply. "If that ship represents their true capability, we cannot fight them." The representative nodded slowly. "Then we must hope they truly come in peace, because if they do not, there is nothing we can do to stop them." Elder listened to the fearful whispers spreading through the chamber. He understood their concern. He shared it. But he had lived a very long time, and he had learned something important about power. The truly powerful did not need to prove themselves. They did not need to threaten or boast. They simply were. And the way the human admiral had handled the battle told him something important. She had not enjoyed it. She had not celebrated the destruction. She had given the pirates every chance to surrender, and when they finally did, she had shown them mercy. That was not the behavior of a conqueror. That was the behavior of someone who understood the terrible weight of power. Someone who knew that the ability to destroy was nothing compared to the choice not to. "My fellow council members," said, raising his hand for silence, "I understand your fear, but I ask you to consider something. The humans could have destroyed every pirate ship. They chose not to. They offered surrender. They showed mercy." "Perhaps that is a trick," someone said. "Perhaps they want us to lower our guard." "Perhaps," admitted. "But ask yourselves this. If they wanted to conquer us, why would they need tricks? You saw what their ship can do. If they wanted war, they could have it at any moment." The chamber was quiet again. His words hung in the air like smoke. "We will meet with these humans," continued. "We will listen to what they have to say, and we will judge them by their actions, not our fears." On the Resolute, Admiral Hana sat in her quarters alone. The battle was over. The prisoners were being collected. The ship was continuing its journey toward the council station. But she could not sleep. She looked at her hands. They were steady. They always were. Even when she gave orders that ended lives, her hands never shook. Sometimes she wished they would. A soft knock came at her door. "Enter," she said. Commander Sung stepped inside. He was still in his uniform, still carrying himself with military precision, but his eyes were softer now, away from the bridge. "You should rest, Admiral," he said. "The meeting with the council is in 2 days." "I know." Hana turned to face him. "Do you think we did the right thing, Sung?" "With the pirates, yes, they attacked us. We defended ourselves. We showed mercy when we could." "Not just the pirates, all of this." She gestured vaguely at the ship around them. "The Titan class, the weapons, coming out here to meet new species with enough firepower to destroy their entire civilization." Sung was quiet for a moment. He had served with Hana for 15 years. He knew her better than almost anyone. "When I was a boy," he said finally, "my grandmother told me a story. She said that long ago humanity was weak. Other countries, other groups, they would invade and take whatever they wanted. The weak had no voice. The weak had no rights. Only the strong could decide their own future." Hana listened silently. "She told me that our ancestors made a choice. They decided that humanity would never be weak again. They would build and create and grow until no one could threaten them, not because they wanted to conquer, but because they wanted to be free." He looked at the Admiral with understanding eyes. "We did not build the Titan class to destroy the galaxy, Admiral. We built it so that no one could ever destroy us. There is no shame in that." Hana considered his words. They were the same things she had told herself many times, but somehow, hearing them from Sung made them easier to believe. "Thank you, Commander," she said softly. Sung nodded and turned to leave. At the door he paused. "For what it is worth, Admiral, I believe the Council will choose peace. They have seen our strength. Now they need to see our character, and there is no one better to show them than you." He left, closing the door behind him. Hana sat alone in the darkness of her quarters. Outside her window, the stars burned with ancient light. Somewhere out there, a galaxy full of species was deciding what to think about humanity. She hoped they would choose wisely. She hoped they would see that humans wanted peace, wanted cooperation, wanted to be part of something greater than themselves. But if they chose war instead, she would be ready. The Resolute would be ready. That was the burden of power. You had to carry it even when you did not want to. You had to be ready to use it even when you prayed you never would. Admiral Hana Park closed her eyes and waited for sleep that would not come. Tomorrow, the real challenge would begin. The Council space station was the largest structure in the known galaxy. It hung in space like a metal flower, its petals stretching out in all directions. Millions of creatures lived and worked there. It was a place of government and commerce, of diplomacy and debate. Today, it was a place of fear. The Resolute had arrived 2 hours ago. It sat at a respectful distance from the station, making no threatening moves. But everyone on the station could see it through the windows. Everyone knew what it could do. Admiral Hana Park stood in the shuttle bay, adjusting her dress uniform. It was deep blue with gold trim, decorated with medals from a dozen campaigns. She hated wearing it. The medals reminded her of battles she wished had never happened. But this was diplomacy, and appearances mattered. Commander Sung stood beside her, wearing his own formal uniform. He looked calm and collected as always. "Ready, Admiral?" he asked. "No," she admitted, "but that has never stopped me before." They boarded the small shuttle that would take them to the station. As they flew across the empty space between the ships, Hana looked back at the Resolute. It seemed smaller from out here, though she knew that was an illusion. The shuttle docked at the station without incident. A group of council representatives was waiting for them. Was at the front, his 4 eyes studying the humans with a mix of curiosity and fear. "Admiral Park," he said, bowing slightly. "Commander Sung, welcome to Council Station. I am Ambassador. I will escort you to the chamber." Hana returned the bow. "Thank you, Ambassador. We appreciate your hospitality." They walked through the station in silence. Everywhere they went, creatures stopped to stare. Some looked curious, some looked frightened, a few looked angry. Hana noticed that security guards were everywhere. They tried to be subtle, but she had been in enough dangerous situations to recognize protective formations. "Your station is impressive," she said too. "How long did it take to build?" "Approximately 200 years," replied. "It was a joint project of the founding species." 200 years, Hana nodded thoughtfully. Humanity built the Resolute in 7. Nearly tripped over his own feet. He recovered quickly, but Hana saw the flash of shock in his eyes. 7 years, he repeated, for a vessel of that size. "We are efficient when we need to be." Hana smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Our history taught us that waiting too long can be fatal." They arrived at the council chamber. The great doors opened, and Hana stepped inside. The chamber was even more impressive than the reports had suggested. The crystal walls seemed to glow with inner light. The ceiling showed the stars in perfect clarity, and everywhere she looked there were aliens. Dozens of species, hundreds of individuals, all watching her with unreadable expressions. At the center of the chamber, a single platform waited. Hana walked toward it, Sung at her side. She felt the weight of all those eyes on her back. Elder stepped forward. He was the oldest being in the room, and somehow that made him seem more dangerous rather than less. "Admiral Hana Park of Earth," he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "You stand before the Galactic Council. We have summoned you to explain your presence in our space and your intentions toward our people." Hana faced the elder without flinching. "Thank you, elder. I am honored to address this assembly." "Let us begin with the obvious question," said. "Why have you come to our space with a warship? If you seek peace, why not come with an unarmed vessel?" Hana had expected this question. She had prepared her answer carefully. "Elder Council members, I will be honest with you. Humanity has a complicated history with trust." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "For thousands of years we fought among ourselves, nation against nation, brother against brother. We learned that the weak are not protected by good intentions. They are protected by strength." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Hana continued. "When we finally united and looked to the stars, we did not know what we would find. We hoped for friends, but we prepared for enemies. The Resolute is not a threat. It is a precaution." The representative stood. "A precaution? You bring a weapon capable of destroying our entire defense fleet and call it a precaution?" "Yes," Hana replied simply, "because I hope I never have to use it." The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives shouted in anger. Others called for calm, raised his hand for silence, and slowly the noise died down. "Admiral," said carefully, "you ask us to trust you, but trust must be earned. What can you offer us as proof of your peaceful intentions?" Hana looked at Sung. He nodded slightly. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "I should tell you the full truth about humanity's presence in the galaxy." The chamber went very quiet. "The Resolute is not our only Titan-class vessel." Hana let the words hang in the air. "It is not even our largest. We built the Titan class as a last defense against any threat to our survival, and we did not stop at one." Sung stepped forward and activated a small device on his wrist. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a star map of the region beyond the dark zone, and scattered across that map were dozens of small dots. "This is the current position of humanity's main fleet," Sung said, his voice steady. 47 Titan-class warships, each as powerful as the Resolute, and behind them over 300 support vessels of various sizes. The chamber was completely silent now. Hana could see representatives doing mental calculations, trying to understand what they were seeing. "We could have hidden this information," Hana said. "We could have pretended the Resolute was our only ship, but we chose to show you the truth. Because we do not want to rule through deception. We do not want to rule at all." Studied the holographic map with ancient eyes. His face was unreadable. "You say you do not want to rule," he said slowly. "Then what do you want?" Hana took a deep breath. This was the moment everything depended on. "We want to be part of your community," she said. "We want to trade with you, learn from you, share what we have learned with you. We want to explore the galaxy together and face its dangers together." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of as many representatives as she could. "Humanity spent thousands of years fighting itself. We nearly destroyed our own world, but we learned from our mistakes. We learned that cooperation is better than conflict. We learned that together we can do things that none of us could do alone." "A beautiful speech," the representative said coldly. "But how do we know you mean it? How do we know you will not simply take what you want by force?" "You do not know," Hana admitted. "Just as we do not know if you will try to destroy us while we sleep. Trust is always a risk, but the alternative is eternal war, and we have had enough of war." She stepped forward closer to. "Elder, I know you are afraid of us. I know our power frightens you. But ask yourself this. If we wanted to conquer you, why would we reveal the size of our fleet? Why would we give you time to prepare? Why would we stand here asking for permission to join your community instead of simply taking what we want?" Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "Because you want something more valuable than conquest. You want legitimacy. You want to be accepted." "Yes," Hana said, "exactly." The old elder looked at the admiral for a long time. Something passed between them, an understanding that went beyond words. "I believe you," said finally. "I believe you come in peace, but I am only one voice. The council must decide together." He turned to face the chamber. "We will take a recess. When we return, we will vote on humanity's request to join the Galactic Council. I ask each of you to consider carefully what you have heard today." The representatives began to file out of the chamber. As they left, they whispered to each other in their various languages. Hana caught fragments of conversation. Some were hopeful, some were fearful, some were simply confused. Sung moved closer to her. "Do you think they will accept us?" Hana watched the last of the representatives disappear through the great doors. "I do not know," she said honestly, "but I think we have a chance, and sometimes a chance is all you need." They waited in the empty chamber, surrounded by crystal walls and starlight. The fate of humanity's relationship with the galaxy hung in the balance. And somewhere in the darkness of space, 47 Titan-class warships waited for the Council's answer. Hana hoped they would not be needed. But she was ready if they were. She was always ready. The recess lasted 3 hours. Hana spent most of that time sitting in a small room near the council chamber. Sung sat across from her, occasionally checking his communicator for updates from the Resolute. Neither of them spoke much. There was nothing left to say. A soft chime announced that the council was ready to reconvene. Hana stood, straightened her uniform, and walked back toward the great chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. The chamber was full again when she arrived. Every representative had returned to their seat. The air felt heavy with tension. Elder stood at the center of the room. His old face was impossible to read. Hana walked to the platform and waited. "Admiral Hana Park of Earth," began. "The Council has debated your request. We have considered your words, your actions, and the power you represent. We have discussed the risks of accepting you and the risks of refusing you." Hana felt her heart beating faster. She kept her face calm, her posture steady. "The vote was not unanimous," continued. "Some of us believe you are too dangerous to trust. Some believe you are exactly what this galaxy needs. The debate was long and difficult." He paused, and Hana felt like the entire room was holding its breath. "But in the end, we reached a decision." Looked directly at her. "The Galactic Council formally invites humanity to join our community. You will be granted full membership with all the rights and responsibilities that come with it." Hana felt something release inside her chest. Relief washed over her like a wave. She wanted to smile, to laugh, to cry. Instead, she simply bowed her head. "Thank you, Elder. Thank you, Council members. Humanity accepts your invitation with gratitude and honor." Raised his hand. "There are conditions." Of course there were. Hana had expected nothing less. "First, we ask that your fleet remain outside Council space unless specifically invited. Your ships are welcome to visit our stations and planets, but the full fleet stays in your territory." "Agreed," Hana said immediately. "Second, we ask that you share your technology with us, not the weapons. We have no desire to build our own Titan-class vessels, but your energy systems, your shields, your medical technology. These things could benefit many species." Hana hesitated. Technology sharing was complicated. There were security concerns, economic concerns, political concerns. "We will share what we can," she said carefully. "Some technology may need to be adapted for other species. Some may have restrictions, but we will negotiate in good faith." Nodded. "That is acceptable. And finally, we ask that you appoint a permanent ambassador to the Council. Someone who will live here, work with us, help us understand your people." This request surprised Hana. It was more personal than she had expected. "An ambassador," she repeated. "Someone to represent humanity on a daily basis." "Yes, someone who can answer questions, resolve disputes, and build the relationships that treaties alone cannot create. Hana thought about who she could send. It would need to be someone patient, someone wise, someone who understood both the power and the responsibility that came with humanity's position. "I know just the person," she said. The next few days were a blur of activity. Documents were signed. Ceremonies were held. Representatives from every species came to meet the human delegation and exchange formal greetings. Through it all, Hana maintained her composure. She smiled when she needed to smile. She spoke when she needed to speak. She represented humanity as best she could. But inside, she was counting the hours until she could return to the Resolute. Finally, the time came to leave. Hana stood in the shuttle bay with Sung, preparing to board the small craft that would take them back to their ship. Came to see them off. The ambassador looked different now. The fear in his eyes had been replaced by something else, curiosity perhaps, or hope. "Admiral Park," he said, "it has been an honor to meet you. I confess, when we first detected your ship, I was terrified. I thought you had come to destroy us." Hana smiled. "I understand. We were strangers with a very big weapon. Fear was natural." "Yes, but I have learned something these past few days." His 4 eyes blinked slowly. "Power does not make a species dangerous. What they choose to do with that power is what matters." "That is a wise observation, Ambassador." Tilted his head. "May I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "Do you ever regret it, building the Titan class, having so much power at your command?" Hana considered the question carefully. It was one she had asked herself many times. "Sometimes," she admitted, "power is a heavy burden. It would be easier to be weak, to let others make the difficult decisions." She looked out the window at the stars. "But we did not have that choice. We learned the hard way that the universe does not protect the weak, so we became strong, and now we must learn to be strong without becoming cruel." Nodded slowly. "I think you are succeeding." "We are trying. That is all anyone can do." They said their final goodbyes, and Hana boarded the shuttle. As it lifted off and flew toward the Resolute, she watched the council station grow smaller in the window. "You did well, Admiral," Sung said quietly. "We did well, all of us." Hana leaned back in her seat. "The hard part is just beginning. Joining the council was the easy part. Now we have to prove we deserve to be here." The shuttle docked with the Resolute, and Hana stepped back onto familiar ground. The crew was waiting for her in the main corridor. They stood at attention, their faces proud. "At ease," Hana said. "You have all earned a rest. The mission was successful." Cheers erupted through the corridor. Hana allowed herself to smile as she walked toward the bridge. Was waiting at his station. Was at her sensors. Dr. Min and her assistant had come up from the medical bay to hear the news. Admiral said, grinning, "The fleet is asking for a status report. They want to know what happened." Hana took her place in the command chair. The chair that had carried her across the dark zone, into unknown space, and into the pages of history. "Tell them the mission is complete," she said. "Humanity has been accepted into the Galactic Council. We are no longer alone in the universe." The message went out at faster-than-light speed. Across the darkness of space, 47 Titan-class warships received the news, and on each one, crews celebrated the beginning of a new era. On the council station, Elder stood alone in the observation deck. He watched the human ship begin its journey back toward the dark zone. Its massive form moved through space with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. "They are remarkable," said a voice behind him. Did not turn around. He knew who it was, had been waiting to speak with him for hours. "Yes," agreed, "they are." "Do you think we made the right decision?" Was quiet for a long moment. The Resolute was just a dot of light now, fading into the distance. "I think we made the only decision we could. They offered us peace. Refusing would have meant war, and we would have lost that war." Moved to stand beside him, so we accepted them out of fear. No, shook his head slowly. We accepted them because they deserve to be accepted. Their power is frightening, yes, but they have chosen to use it wisely. They could have conquered us. Instead, they asked to join us. And you believe they will continue to choose wisely. Thought about Admiral Hannah Park, her steady eyes, her careful words, the weight she carried on her shoulders. I believe they will try, he said, and I believe that is enough. The old elder turned away from the window and walked toward the door. There was much work to do. The galaxy was changing, and the council needed to change with it. But for the first time in 3,000 years, felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. In the vast darkness between stars, the Resolute sailed home. On its bridge, Admiral Hannah Park looked out at the universe and smiled. They had come so far. From a small planet nearly destroyed by its own violence, humanity had risen to take its place among the stars. They had built wonders. They had faced the unknown. They had earned the respect of an entire galaxy. And this was only the beginning. There were more species to meet, more wonders to discover, more challenges to face. The universe was vast and full of mystery. But humanity was ready. They had always been ready. And now the galaxy knew it too.